can see the architectural view of Windchill integrating with the ERP system, having a middleware of ESI. Yeah, so here you can, let's go with the PDM link. Now the latest version of PDM link is Windchill 11. I can see the PDM link and the info engine. So
what
in the
PDM
interaction
link?
between
What is the PDM link?
yeah, PDM link is like product data management, where we store our Windchill based data, like parts, documents, BOM, bill of materials and all. So where we store our Windchill related data. And engine is where we interact with the directory, where we create our JND adapters and task delegation. Delegation configuration will be configured in the info engine administration. The WCES services. So having the ESS services, we need to install a package ESS services from EC and SOAP UI web service, which will interact with the ESS services. And in our case, the communication between the ERP and the Windchill is in the form of XML format. So there is a trigger in the Windchill for release of the part to the release of production. Then the XML file will get generated in the managed distribution targets. So this managed distribution target is there will be a shared network, like that there should be some communication path between the ERP and the Windchill. This is what we call the managed distribution targets. So the location of these targets will be shared, like common location for both the systems. Where communication like SOAP XML files will get in that like two paths, subpaths in that managed distribution targets. One is the in and other is the out. In is where we're sending our information to the ERP, and out is where we're getting the response from the ERP. So about the inbound transactions. So there is a trigger, a change of object state to release the production. When the object is released for the production, then be generating the inbound XMLs, and inbound XMLs will get populated to the ERP. So on what basis this inbound XML will get populated to the ERP? So they will have some certain criteria, like we'll trigger that program for every 5 minutes to consume that inbound XML. So it will get populated in the ERP system. So ERP systems, most of the things like worked on are Dynamics AX. So developed few application to consume these inbound XMLs.
ERP systems. How did the Microsoft Dynamics come into picture here? Could you please explain?
Intermediary, like we don't have the ESI middleware. It is the common business objects and Windchill mappers. And if you see, if you consider this ESI middleware, consider this as somewhat like an Microsoft Dynamics AX application. Think about this as an Windchill connector.
Instead of ESI middleware, you're saying there will be it is replaced by the Microsoft Dynamics AX, right?
AX, it's an application we developed, like custom application.
Okay.
So that what it does is as I said previously, we have an inbound adapter, the folder structure path. So inbound XML, the communication I told between the ERP and the Windchill will be in the form of XML format. What this kind of AX connector application will do is it will consume the index XML for every 5 minutes. So this application will run under a scheduler.
Okay.
And we use an OOTP scheduler, which we have basically provided by Windows Task Scheduler, and we have any other scheduler.
That's fine.
Piece of thing, yeah.
But what is the input to the Microsoft Dynamics, what actually it consumes and what it is going to dump?
It
What are the
consumes
upstream and downstream systems?
Inbound is the input data for the consumer app.
Put data from the consumer app, right?
No, it's from the Windchill inbound Windchill data is the input data for the consumer app.
Okay.
So
in this picture, where is the consumer app? Which one is the consumer app here in this diagram?
Consider this full as an consumer app, because we have this encodings and Windchill mappers, everything in that.
Okay.
Because the high-level architectural view, that consumer app does is it will have sub-layers. Like we have sub-layers in the consumer app. Inbound adapter, transmission layer, outbound adapter, and BOM transformation layer. So in that, in this middleware, we have developed sublayers in that application. So coming to that inbound adapter, will have a mapper classes, like Windchill mapper classes. You can see here. Encoding, decoding things. So why we do encoding and decoding? Because here the communication is in the form of XML, so we need to encode it to the Microsoft Dynamics AX specific format.
Okay.
So then here comes a Windchill mapper. So the scenario here is like Windchill mapper. Windchill has various attributes. Suppose take a part. Part name, number is unique, and is a description, and you have a template value. So we have some templates. Templates are default values where we have for our information in the templates. So we have template values, and we have long descriptions. Various things we have. So what this Windchill will do is it will map the Windchill attributes with the templates which are in the ERP system. So it will get the template to the ERP system. So custom code, we will write a query to retrieve the template from the ERP system. The template will map the Windchill attributes to the template. The mapped values and the templates are filled with the values. So template will become an information. So the information will be published to the ERP. So the publishing will happen in the outbound adapter.
Okay.
This outbound adapter will call the process from the X. Suppose here
common business objects, and what are those neutral?
These common business objects are like what we use. Like suppose the attributes and the values what we have and what we have it in the Windchill. Like it relate. So we'll develop the same objects in the ERP2 as which are in Windchill. Okay. So that the mapping will be equal, and the whole information will be transformed to the ERP system. Common objects.
Okay. There will be some will objects also at the bottom, right? The title
of
ERP in your representation of Windchill objects. Okay.
So coming to this, what is this ERP neutralization in the sense? So suppose if you have two papers, have names and all, so these both should map.
Okay.
So there should be a mapping between these two. So we'll have a template. So I told that in the ERP we'll have templates, default templates created prior. So get the templates. We'll get the template, basic empty template, and we'll drop in this information what we get from Windchill into the template. And template. How packing will happen? The transformation between after common objects we'll have transformation layer, transaction with ERP. The transformation of these things. So transformation will happen, and ERP map will come into the picture now.
Okay.
So this
Maps the ERP.
is a
Maps
mapper
to
what
the ERP
at
application, right?
yeah, it will map to the ERP application based on the sections. So here in the AX we have a lot of sections like product data management, services, purchasing, and all. So you need to make sure that it goes into the proper category. That proper category we have certain references and libraries that we call from AX that has pre-provided it. So we use that libraries and references and we populate that transformed ESA objects in this system. And coming to this adapter configurations, ERP adapters. Adapter configurations are the paths. Yeah, these are nothing but you'll have an app.config will create a configuration file where we have the adapter, inbound adapter, and the outbound adapter, and the configuration and the client ID. For every specific option, we have a client ID. So client ID, username, password, will have every details in this. So on this, authentication will happen to the ERP system. So actually, we don't need authentication for the Windchill because it is a file-based communication here. It happens between the Windchill and the ESA middleware. But coming to ERP and the ESA middleware, should be there should happen the authentication.
Okay. Windchill and ESA middleware, no need of authentication?
No need of authentication because it is a file-based communication between folder structures.
Okay.
So this is how ERP system integration happens. Into detail, we'll have much more adapter configurations as well as manage distribution targets configurations and the settings, and that will be much deeper level.
Okay.
And when you see core services, EAI core services, so what are those? So you have transaction management, error handling, message logging. So these things. So we need to inform the Windchill user, like whether the transaction is successful or not. So have a logging services for that.
Right.
So for that it will handle the logging services based on the timestamp. So I told you we have a scheduler. It will run for every 5 minutes. So there are 5 inbound XML generated. It will consume all the inbound adapters in that 5th of time. These ESA these core services come into the picture. So what we do is here we handle these ERPs in a separate error logging folder, connector logs, and we have separate sections there. So this transaction management will log it into a separate folder, and errors then we'll log it into a separate folder. In message logging, we will tell, okay, this object is mapped, this object is mapped, this attribute is mapped to the ERP. So these mappings are mapped in the logging session. And we'll see to ERP cross-reference is like what a thing like for which object it is mapped, and what is, like we have many objects in Windchill, like part. Means in Windchill we won't call, in terminology we won't call it as part. We'll call it WT object. Many WT objects like parts, documents, and bombs. And for what cross references the ERP should be mapped. Do it in this cross referencing.
Explain this. What is Windchill objects like parts, bomb?
Yeah, these Windchill objects. So basically when we discuss in the terminology of Windchill, we don't call it as simply like parts, and to describe all the parts, bombs, documents, and ECNs, we call it as Windchill objects, a single terminology to explain scenarios. So coming detail about parts, bombs, docs, and ECNs, parts are nothing but the representations, like visual representations of real-time parts. We have a drill bit. We have drill bit. We call it as we have many parts in the drill bit. We have screw. We have a nut. We have a cap. We have what covering for that. So everything comes under single part. Next comes the bill of materials. What are these bill of materials? Is the naming convention we can tell bill of materials. So these are structural ways. The combination of parts, documents, bomb, assemblies, everything comes under bill of materials.
Okay.
Bill of materials after docs, these are the documents. So these documents are the maybe the instructions or the employee training materials and various things like instruction guides. Anything might be the docs. So to describe the part. So in what format we describe the part. So link this part and document to the BOM. And this is the structure, this is what we do, and specifications mentioned in the doc, and we'll attach to the bill of materials. And we can add a reference to the part as well. We have a reference by part and reference by doc. So we can reference this part with the documents. But the user in the Windchill can note the part, what is this part about, and for it is used. So these things are documented and attached to the part. As a ECN. So coming to the ECN, we call it as in our way, we call it electronic change notice. When to pretty much higher level, we tell it as electronic change management. So on change management, we have ECNs and ECRs. The difference in ECN and ECR are electronic change management and electronic change notice. Let me talk about what is ECR, which is not mentioned here. Is electronic change request. So whenever there is a request or change in an object in an organization, so let's come into a real-time scenario. Let's have an engine malfunctioning happened. Then a defect in its part. So the engineer in the organization will raise a request. Saying that there is a fault in the engine. And ECR process, we have many processing happening. So the initiation is started with the submitter who faced with the issue. Then the review board, change review board. It comes the picture. But does it really require the change? Will be viewed by the change board. Like other processings like fast track, full track, like means how fast this process should happen. Is it really affecting the organization? No. Then go to the track. Full everything. Again the processing will happen. Again re-review will happen. And on will create a change notice. Will notify the team, manufacturing team, implementation team to implement the change. That's where the ECN will come in. Where else ECN will come in? Whenever a new part is brought to the company. So if there is a new drill bit coming into the company, it is one. So it's a change notice to the company. There is a new change in the company. So they change notice. Okay. One it comes with the ECR and other it comes with the direct only the ECN.
Okay.
Yeah. See, you can visualize here SAP objects. In my way, we can tell as AX objects. So materials. See, the mapping will be parts. Here in Windchill object it's part, and in SAP objects. Sorry.
Right. 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In Windchill part and in ERP it is materials. The mapping, the naming convention may be differ, but the mapping is the same. Change masters. You can see masters, right?
Where does this mapping is managed? Here, ER mapping.
ERP mapping as well as the Windchill mapping. So these two mappers are for this is for the Windchill mapping, and ERP mapping is for the ERP side, ERP system side.
Okay.
So functionality, this whole scenario applies for every ERP system. Only change. Suppose the only change will be the APIs we call.
So what systems you worked? One is you said AX.
Yeah, I've done the AX and SharePoint.
Your experience in SharePoint. You did.
Point, I have.
Yeah, right?
Sorry? Yeah.
Right, in the ERP area.
Yeah.
ERP will be SharePoint.
So why we integrated with SharePoint is like we want to store the Windchill related things for the documents. In the documents we have CAD documents, normal WC documents, everything. So for that, then PDF will be generated. So there is in thumbnail. We have thumbnail it's in detail. Like we have thumbnail generators. So when we click on the thumbnail generators, a PDF will be generated. So this is for the reference for the user. So what our clients
what is your main design behind integration?
Yeah, just let me tell you high level like what I did for the SharePoint. So what our client wants is they want to store the SharePoint. They want to store the PDFs formats in the SharePoint and the this details of that part or an object, ability object. How I integrated is like I have deployed the ESA build that we have built it. So why we deployed is because if we do the change state, it won't generate any inbound XML as we discussed earlier. So how we are generating the inbound XML, which is an source food for the connector. Is we build this SharePoint application and we will manually change the state utility. So utility will be run under the Windchill shell. Windchill is a command prompt for our Windchill application where we do our commands, where we execute our commands, and which will be propagated to the Windchill, which will propagate the Windchill side. So we have deployed the SharePoint build on our Windchill system. The second comes the integration. So how the integration happens is again the same thing. Manage distribution targets here. We haven't used those manage distribution targets. We manually created an path, and we build. We have specified the path where our should be populated to. So whenever there is a state change, you manually by an user, that adapter as well as an XML file with information of the object will load into the inbound XML file. Then it will have a SharePoint code. Okay. Developed in a C# environment. So what it does is like we'll map that drive where our inbound XMLs are generating. Yes. So
like what is your design in the C#? How you accomplished this using C#?
Yeah, generally we had an outline like how do we need to consume this adapter Windchill data to the ERP. So we need to read the information like XML used in the inbound adapter. So we read that. Yeah, initially we had an adapter, internal adapter in the C# code. We read that information in the XML. Like in the XML we have nodes. We call it as nodes. So in the code we have into the adapter values. So the nodes won't change, right? Suppose if you have dependencies and dependencies, so the nodes change in the XML. Everything will be the same. It's a template. So it won't change. So for reference in the C# code we have used that template node templates, and between the node templates we have the values. So artically based on the nodes we will read the values in the code using the code. The integration like as usual we source ready and code C# code. We have already had the adapt configured and all. And the code we have again the app.config. App.config, like we'll use it normally for configuration settings. Configuration settings in the sense where our source data is residing. Means in the app.config you can see will predefine where our source data is residing in Windchill. So it will be in the form of XML in a folder path. So there won't be much authentication thing in Windchill and the middleware applications.
Yep.
Yeah. And
so
now
you built the sharp, it actually between the Windchill and ESI, right?
Yeah. Yes. Then we are done with this C# build, and we are ready with the source code, source information. When coming to the ERP system, there we used the scheduler to run for every 5 minutes. So it will trigger the build and upload to the SharePoint. And same thing will have that authentication.
Jenkins or any other things here? Continuous integration tools?
We used Selenium for this. Like for seeing how many users are getting logged into the ERP system, and the load have the general test scenarios like
unit testing.
Like general. We have like 2 types of testing. Like general testing is like for every deployment we use the same testing. So that's we call general testing in Windchill. So that general testing I have designed in Selenium framework.
So how did you build that? Which language you used to build it?
Java for that.
Okay.
And Selenium web drivers to communicate further to the browsers.
Okay.
After that, after the source is getting populated to the ERP, so get a response from the ERP that it is successful or not.
Okay.
So we will get a response here, and response will be stored in an outbound adapter in Windchill. Here, like previously had a source, and means generally we had a request. In normal terminology, we sent a request in. We are getting a response out. Since what it contain? It will contain the status and a message. If this is successful, it will be having a attribute value as successful, and it's uploaded to the SharePoint. So what is the use of this response, and where it will be used? How it will be used to the Windchill user. So have a user interface GUI for the users to view whenever they are sending any parts like Windchill objects, parts, bombs, or documents. So users these based on the transaction ID. For every part, bomb, or object which is published to the ERP, it will have a transaction ID.
Right.
So in the outbound adapter, we have 3 values: transaction ID, transaction status. Based on transaction ID, the values will be updated on the part attributes. Like we'll create a custom attributes because we can't create it in a OOTB attribute. So you can say what is OOTB. OOTB means out of the box. Out of this will come with the Windchill, so we can't modify those OOTB attributes. So we will create our custom attributes. So this would come, attribute creation will come under again a deeper level, like we'll go to the type and attribute manager, and we'll create an attribute specific to the Windchill object. Again a new level.
So
based on
Go ahead, say.
Yeah. So this custom attributes, our value specified here. Transaction status and the message will be published to the specific double object based on the that are the error loggings. So we use error loggings here. So these loggings in the sense we have transaction ID and status, right? Coming under error logging. We haven't used any error logging in this or in this project.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you for your time, and it's good. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.